our next guest is Chris Roberts. Chris is an entrepreneur, a speaker, and Forbes Real Estate Council member. And I heard he's a powerhouse of energy. He has lots and lots of energy. So I'm just waiting to hear what he has to share with us today. So welcome, Chris. Stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Very excited to be here. I'm excited for all of you, at various levels of experience. Love what Scott was saying and all the other speakers before. It's just awesome. It's a great place to be. I think a lot of us inspire to, whether it be leave our careers or maybe create some financial freedom in general or pay off bills, that drives us to generally want to get into this space, right? You don't just wake up one day and decide to become a real estate professional. And so the key today is to talk a little bit about how we raise money. So I'm gonna share a little bit of my journey with you guys, and then I'll detail some of the things we did. But I'm gonna bring it down a notch. There are lots of ways to raise money, and there are high level ways to raise money for more seasoned syndicators. And then there's what you do kind of in the beginning. Today, we've been in business about a little over 4 years. We have about $200 million in value add assets, being class A, B, and C. We have one new development that's now occupied. It's about a $90 million project. And we have approximately $400 million worth of new development in the queue right now, breaking ground and at various levels of the process. We've raised about 43 million or so, and we've distributed a little over 10 million in those 4 years. So I guess you would consider us maybe sort of a mid-level as far as scale goes. I started the company originally and brought in my partner and I now COO, Paul Wilcox, who was a construction engineer. The reason this partnership thing is relevant to raising capital is I realized early on that while I could do all of this stuff because I had been a previous business owner and understood numbers, it was things that I didn't really want to do. So I quickly brought him in. His expertise allowed me to focus on the things that I really enjoyed, which was building out the team, and then also focusing on investors, right? And dealing with the relationship side of things. His focus was more on the infrastructure and systems and processes. And from there, we grew into a team of about 8 people today. So what are some of the first things first? Well, remember, if you're starting out and whether today's your first day or maybe you've raised a couple of bucks for a deal and you're a partner on that deal, right? So again, per what the rules are, you're not just raising money for a deal, but maybe you're a partner and you were the one that was generally responsible for that capital side of it, managing investors, et cetera. You're going to need some form of thought leadership, and everyone's talked about thought leadership so far. But what does that mean for you when you first start? Well, for me, I had to build credibility from my previous experience, and that's okay, right? So if maybe you don't have real estate experience, you can have some sort of thought leadership or credibility from something else you've done. They've talked about books. I have a third book that just came out now that we've been rolling for a while. But before that, it was blogs I had written. It was other projects that I had worked on. It was single family stuff that I had done. So I just found a way to sort of build a credibility model that made it sound like I was in the know and that I was someone that they could know, like, and trust to come on this multifamily investing journey with me. So it's not that you necessarily have to have all this multifamily experience, right? You can find other ways. If you don't have it, then obviously one of your partners could have it. Something that boded well for me in the beginning was my partner was a construction engineer. Now that may sound fancy, but it gave us a certain level of status because they understood that he knew numbers in construction and renovation and things of that sort. And then on my side of things, obviously being a salesperson, early on and being a people person, I could go out and articulate the pitch decks and articulate the returns and the process of how I had built many single families and bought and sold land and traded, and how that yielded good returns, but was a little bit riskier because I was buying one at a time versus maybe 100 units under one door. So I'm going to give you a couple of things to consider here, and then I'll talk a little bit about our website, what we do there to drive people in, and how we maximize SEO and whatnot. Build some form of thought leadership or credibility. Again, doesn't have to be fancy. It could just be your own level of credibility, but you have to be somebody that people look to, that they can know, like, and trust to give your money to. And you'd be surprised at how many people have money that maybe you don't think have money. Excuse me. So don't underestimate the power of your presentation, and don't be afraid to ask. Develop a script. This is really early on, something you have to figure out. What is my script? What am I going to say to them that makes me sound like I'm in the know? And this could be understanding a deal, understanding the business, understanding how underwriting works. It could be any of those things, but you have to articulate in a way that makes you look like you're in the know. Remember, you're going to have investor calls, right? And those people are going to be looking to you for insights into why they would want to give you their money, right? So for me personally, I focused a lot on trying to understand the investor. Where'd they come from? What kind of experience did they have? What's their personal life like? Do they aspire to retire earlier? Is it just a little extra cash flow for them? And really got to know people in the beginning, and then talked a little bit about the numbers and found that there was a more of a trust factor there. Whereas my experience talking to a lot of syndicators was very boraxy, very matter of fact, very, your time's up, got to get off the call. And that didn't resonate well with me, with somebody who was trying to get my $50,000. Not only that, the people that I talked to much in the beginning were not people that had actually done syndications. They were underlings or investor relations people that were not the people that I was actually giving my money to, which again made me feel a little uncomfortable. That's not a bad thing, being that they were using a director of investor relations or something, because as you scale, you have to do that. You have to hire people and they take on responsibility. But I'm just telling you, when you first start, you're going to want to be the one who wears most of the hats. Start measuring your contact list. So as you're building this thought leadership or whatever it is you're doing, start measuring it. You could use ActiveCampaign, MailChimp. There's many software systems to measure, but you're going to want to start tracking all these people coming in some way, shape, or form. I mean, this is very simple, but even if you were putting them in a spreadsheet, I mean, you can get free accounts, so you don't have to do that, but you must track them so that you can follow up with them, see where they came from, reach out to them via text message or email and follow up with them when you have deals that are live. This is really important, especially for the non-accrediteds, per the rules, right? If someone comes to you and you don't have a live deal, you want to be able to track that you had a conversation with them and that you asked them specific questions and that you corresponded back and forth with them to develop that substantive relationship. There are many ways to do that, but phone call records, email records, conversations, and them being in a form of your CRM or your flow charts or your automations is a good way to track that, so you don't get yourself in trouble, especially with non-accrediteds. Put a plan together, maybe to raise $1 million. I learned in the very beginning that it's very difficult to raise money, even though I had a really good network. I thought, man, I could raise a couple $1,000,000, no problem. I only raised 300,000 on my first raise. And for some of you, maybe that's a lot of money, but I was shocked that I could only raise 300. The very next deal, I raised 1.2, and then it went way up from there. And then we went on to 40 some odd million. So make sure when you put your number together, oh, I want to raise $1 million, you're really thinking, I need a plan to raise $2 million, because only about half those people, I'm giving you rough numbers here, but are actually going to come through and invest when the rubber meets the road and it's time to get busy. So if you think, oh, I've got all these people that have soft committed, they've told me they're interested, I've got a leadership program and I've got them excited and they want to invest in my next opportunity, just remember that probably only half of them are going to actually show up. We were fortunate enough to have about 75% of them show up, but I found that it did drop from time to time on different offerings, especially if your base starts to get exhausted. If you have, I mean, we had up to 12 deals at one point, and those deals going back to back to back can exhaust that base that you have. So if you're not marketing regularly and expanding that base, you're going to exhaust it and your retention is going to drop even more, from 50 to 40 to 30, who knows, right? Put a plan together and maybe focus on trying to raise $1 million. That's a good number. $1 million can get you far in this business, especially on beginning to mid-level deals. And it's okay to partner, but if you take anything away from me, make sure you take this very seriously. When you first start out, you're thinking, I'm going to do all this on my own, but you realize, especially if you're working full time, it's difficult, right? Make sure you vet your partners and make sure that they prove to you in some way, shape, or form that they can deliver on what they say they can deliver. If you have a partner that says, oh yeah, I've raised millions of dollars, well, they need to verify that they've raised millions of dollars somehow with you. If they say, oh yeah, I've done underwriting forever, ask them to verify it, work with them, ask them to show you what they do, right? If they say, yeah, I have deal flow. Well, how do you have deal flow? What are your broker relationships? And make sure that you guys are starting on the right foot together. That way there's expectations that are set and there's accountability measures. We've had situations where people absolutely just didn't deliver, and it was because we didn't vet them properly. That's why, like, even on our website, we put a lot of reviews from our investors. We put testimonial videos. We want people to know straight up, not from what we say, but from what they say. We don't pay them to do that. We just ask them, if you had a good or a bad experience, what would you like to say something? And then they say it. We probably have 20 of them on our website. That's really, you will find that it is easier in some cases to partner with people to do deals, especially when you get over say the $1 million mark. But you have to make sure they're your right partners, because you could be stuck with them for 5 years or longer. When you secure commitments, as I said earlier, make sure that you're focusing on the expectation being at about 50% of what you think you can raise. But don't be afraid when those folks actually commit and then they're ready to invest, to ask them if they want to bump their investment up. We have found that was very effective, and it's a simple thing to say. Hey, I noticed you're in for 50,000. The deal's about to close in 3 weeks. Would you be interested in putting 60,000 in, or would you be interested in bumping up your investment? Sometimes your raise could be open for 90 days or more, especially if you have funds, which we've had funds. So there's nothing wrong with going back, because things change, right? Maybe they have more money, or they sold a home or something. We have found this to be a very effective way to actually increase our raise at the very last minute. So how do you raise? Personal capital, your own money. LP capital, folks that you're bringing in from outside that you might solicit, right? Via advertising, via relationships, if they're non-accredited and you have to have those substantive relationships. Private equity, we talked about that. There's crowdfunding, right? So there's lots of ways you can do this. We've utilized all of these tools. Some are better than others. Private equity is difficult to acquire. They're going to scrutinize you even more than the banks will in some cases. So make sure you're buttoned up with your partnerships, your backgrounds, your liquidity, net worth, and you've partnered with a bank at that point, usually by the time private equity is coming around. Crowdfunding can be expensive, right? So make sure that you're vetting the crowdfunding company, but it could be a good way to bring in accredited and non-accredited investors, because the crowdfunding company usually takes on the responsibility for the most part. And I'm not, full disclosure, I'm not an attorney, but that can be a good way for them to help guide you through going and bringing in money through non-accredited investors. So you want to vet that. There's several of them. Social media, this is a big one. This was touched on, but I want to dig in just real quick. On social media, we've had great success bringing investors in through all mediums. Forbes Real Estate Council, Bigger Pockets articles that we've written, LinkedIn, YouTube, you name it. We have had an investor from everything we've done, and sometimes multiples, right? But Facebook was a really good one for us because we ran an ad, so a graphic. It was detailed about our offering. And we ran a separate ad when we did crowdfunding, and we said, available to all investors, go to this site, and we drove them straight to the non-accredited crowdfunding site, because that's what we had to do. And then they would go and invest through that. But what we found is, on our accredited side, when we ran our ads, we linked a form through Facebook to it. And that allowed us to link it to our active campaign CRM, that flowed all of those leads into our active campaign system, allowing us to follow up and track. So at one point, we were spending about $800 to $1,000 a month on social media, Facebook specifically, promoting, right? Now you can dig in a little deeper. It used to be very broad, but now you can dig into people that are looking for real estate, things of that sort. So we went after a very specific niche at one point. $800 to $1,000 a month. We did that over about a 7-month period or so. And we were tracking anywhere from 70 to 100 leads a month coming in through those Facebook leads. And we raised about $2.7 million through those Facebook leads. Okay. Now that's relevant because we only spent about, give or take, $20,000 after we paid a little bit of marketing fees to a company that taught us how to do the ads on social media. So it is relevant. It does work. Now, full disclosure here, of that 2.7, we had one person invest $1 million off Facebook. It was absolutely crazy to me that someone that didn't know who we were would click an ad But it works. Once they came into our system, they got on a call with us, they got to know us. That leads me to the next piece. They went to our website. And started watching our videos. They started looking at the books, the blogs, the reviews, and they felt comfortable. It took 2 calls with that person. But think about that. Even if I had spent $20,000 for that one person at $1 million, it worked, right? But remember, as everyone was talking about throughout the meetup here, there are many things that can drive people in. So it could have been that they saw, wow, this person's in Forbes, real estate council, or, oh, this person wrote a couple books, or this person, has natural videos of them, and I see them in their environment and I feel kind of like I know them. So it is important for you to build some sort of thought leadership, but it doesn't have to be everything in the beginning. My priority list would be get yourself a landing page, or some form of thought leadership. That could be blogs, it could be newsletters, but get something so that you can send people there so that they can see you know what you're talking about. We started, as I said earlier, about 4 years ago. We have now shifted into luxury development. We started in the Class C value add space. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to flex with the market and change as things move on. We could shift right back to that. Right now, we find that the development is a comfortable space for us. So that's a lot of information. I'm going to stop there and open it up for any questions. I could go on and on about this stuff. I love it. I'm so excited you guys are here and pursuing your journey. I left corporate America last year. All my team left corporate America, and we're full-time real estate professionals, and we love it. Couldn't have done it without multifamily real estate.
I love rocking and rolling with Chris Roberts. We've done a couple podcasts. He's so fun, super high energy, probably one of the most abundant persons I've ever met. You get him on a phone call and you literally will talk for like 45 minutes to an hour and a half almost every time. I'm not going to promise that, but that's been my experience so far. So I'd invite people, please connect with Chris Roberts. Please, Chris, put your contact information in the chat. I think I put in one place to reach you, which is your email. But man, it's so awesome hanging out with you. I really love this. I got to ask you this before we open it up for Q&A. Tell me a little bit about becoming a TEDx speaker. If I wanted to do that, I've had some emails come through saying, hey, we want you to be a TEDx speaker. I don't know if there's a big charge for that or how they set that up. What's been your experience there?
Yeah, I'll make it quick because it's a pretty long process that I've gone through, but I've been working on my TEDx talk for 1.5 years. I hired a coach. I just wanted to take time because I had a book that was coming out and I had all these other things going on. So I hired a coach that has about 4 million views on his talk, and he's really good. And he was perfect fit for me after I interviewed like 4 people, and he started working me through the process. We applied. I eventually got accepted to a TEDx talk that I went to in this beautiful theater. It's like 800 people, the mezzanines. It's amazing. The energy there. And I'm just excited. The idea behind TEDx is for you to share ideas worth spreading. And I'm very passionate about helping people and giving back because, I grew up in very humble beginnings, projects of mine. And that was the process. So I hired a coach, I started working on my talk, and then got accepted, interviewed, auditioned, and I'll be on stage October 14th. Once your talk goes live through TEDx, it usually goes on to the TED national stage. They get about 350 million views a month. So it's pretty exciting, gives you some pretty cool street cred, and obviously helps you change the world by sharing your message. So it's really, really cool.
Absolutely incredible. Do we have any questions? Vinky, can you help me if you see any questions that are coming through, or if anybody has any questions, please put that in the chat.
Yes, there's a couple of questions. And then somebody wants to know, what is the topic of the TEDx talk?
Yeah, it's unlikely mentors. So you'll see it coming out. I'm actually doing a real estate event where I'm going to talk a little bit about it. But it's basically the power of unlikely mentors, right? How you can find yourself through unlikely mentors. And real quick, the spinoff of mentors versus unlikely is mentors are people maybe you pay that have a formal structure, or people in your life that have a system and process. Unlikely mentors are the people that you wouldn't expect to come into your life and change it significantly. These people that are all around you that maybe you wouldn't think of as mentors, but are actually the ones most likely to change your life. So that's the topic. And it's a journey through my life and then through some of the successes I've had and how I eventually gave back as an unlikely mentor myself.
So another quick question is about the CRM system, what platform you're using, and has the Facebook help you grow your ROI among all the marketing platforms?
Great question. I use ActiveCampaign. I love it. It's fine. It works for us. There's lots of others, but we love it. It works. And yes, and I didn't show you, but if you have a chance, go to my website, sterlingrhinocapital.com. Take a look through there and take any information you want. I'm open book here, right? Anything you want that'll help you. We do branding videos. We do testimonials. I have all the books there. We use landing pages for all of our offerings, which blows up SEO because we have so many pages in our offerings, right? And the videos keep people on our website for long periods of time. So we started using that very, very early, maximizing the website. Matter of fact, we took 4 months off of doing deals to build out our systems, infrastructure, SEO, and just really try to focus on driving people. And then we started ramping up and raised about $8 million immediately right after that. So
Absolutely incredible. Chris, thank you so much for your time, man. Always fun to kick it with you.